Croeso, welcome for more Britain's Hidden History. And I'm reading from Wilson Blackett's book, which is an inspired name, Arthur and the Charters of the Kings, because the second half of the book is all about information you can find from the Charters about the Arthurian era, who was who, where they lived, all that kind of stuff. It's great. The first half is very much about ancient Britain, and the point they're making here is you've got these British kings ruling from, say, around about the 450 to 500 BC, when they arrived, right through to in the last, about 1000 AD, 1,500 years of British history, which is completely ignored, although there's loads of records for it. It's just ridiculed and ignored. And if one of the 30 points they make is the level of proof which is expected or demanded to give it any credence is way above any other history is put through. You know, we wouldn't do this as they list here Aztecs or Mayans or Toltecs. You don't rip theirs apart because of lack of evidence. Central America or the Egyptians or the Polynesians, the Maoris, or nearer to home, the Greek and Roman accounts, which are always sort of venerated and bowed down to. And they're not asked the same sort of, the idea is you can't prove these histories, so the Welsh histories and the British histories are rubbish. Anyway, so here's a crucial period which describes how the invasion of how the Claudian invasion came about. And I'll do more on this soon. So it's from page 8. Oh, by the way, there's still some of these left. Published in 1981, so these books are now 40 years old. And with the growth of this channel and everything, great to say that they've almost all gone. Wilson and Blackett are delighted, so there we go. Order one while you can, cameraglyphics.com. I'm not sure when these will get republished. Certainly not in this format. That's big, heavy hardbacks like this, which they pretty much handmade, typed and stuck together. It's a big, huge story. Anyway, let's get back to the book. The kings ruling from South Wales, starting from around 570 BC, were without doubt the royal line of Britain. Before the arrival of the legions of Claudius in Britain in AD 43, no less than 15 of them had ruled in unbroken succession. In fact, when Julius Caesar made his expeditions into Britain in 55 BC and 54 BC, he never came up against or met with these British kings and fought with the princes of the southeastern part of what is now England. Never came up against the main armies. When the later Claudian invasion was planned, the Romans were able to take advantage of internal squabbles between princes in Britain. The major piece of luck which enabled the Romans to actually successfully invade Britain is in fact rarely mentioned in the history books, although it is very well known. Their fleet was made ready at Bologna and the army assembled. Whilst over in England, the king, hearing of all this, assembled his armies to meet the invasion threat. Then, when both sides were ready for the great clash, the Roman army mutinied and refused to take ship for Britain. Now, whether this was simple fear of the unknown or a memory in the army of the failures of Julius Caesar, which had been well doctored by the Russian propaganda machine, but which was still common knowledge in the army, we do not know. Yeah, the Roman emperors might be saying, yeah, Julius Caesar did great, it was wonderful, what a glorious expedition, but the troops knew. He came in, he got chased off the island and got severe kicking. They were lucky to get away at all. So that's what the soldiers were aware of. Either way, the Romans were stuck in Gaul, with the mutiny army refusing to sail, and the British king with his assembled hosts in a multitude stood waiting along the southern coasts. A whole month dragged by, and the British armies waiting, staring out to sea, and probably with their ships scouting offshore to sight the Roman fleet stood waiting. Nothing happened. Possibly the British got word of the Roman mutiny. The British king had his own problems, for armies of warriors had to be fed, along with the thousands of their chariot horses, and the seasons were drawing on. Finally, quite convinced that the Romans were not coming this year in 43 AD, the British king went home, and his hosts dispersed to the southwest, to the west, into Wales, to the Midlands, and away into the east and the far north. The great collision on the beaches never occurred. And the massed armies of the British dispersed to their homes. Then, in one of the great accidents of history, the Romans got their reluctant army into the ships, and they set off for Britain, where they were able to land unopposed, much to their amazement. The genie was out of the bottle, for the Romans were never very good at fighting improvised or sudden battles. They were the masters of the set-piece planned battle, and a combat on the beaches in the surf would certainly have not been in their favour. At this time, the British ruler was King Bran, the Raven, the 16th king of the line, established over in South Wales, on his ancestral territory in Glamorgan. His son was the famous King Caradoc, who now led his people for 9 years in the struggle against the Romans from 43 to 51 AD. An invading army always has an advantage once it can penetrate the territory of its opponents, for it has no women or children, no homes, crops or cattle to protect. Finally, King Caradoc was forced away from skirmishing and guerrilla tactics, where he held the advantage, and compelled to accept a major set-piece battle with the Roman army when the Romans moved their armies into his homelands. They came into South Wales forced to fight a set-piece battle, otherwise everything's going to get destroyed. The Silures people of South Wales were joined by Ordovices of North Wales and by forces under Beli, the son of Cynfelyn, from areas in the east. The battle probably took place in South Glamorgan at a site which clearly fits the descriptions given by Tacitus the Roman. I'd love to know where that battle site is, who was not present at the battle himself, but got the description from his father-in-law, Agricola, who commanded the Roman army. This was a massive battle, and the beginning of the tale of Caradoc's woe and being betrayed, going to Rome and all those things, the birth of Christianity. It's crucial, and there's more of that to come. It's all in this book. So there we are. Grab your copy while you can. There'll be plenty on the channel, so don't worry if you can't get a copy. And I'll see you next time. Heddwch.